Oh, hey folks, how you doing there? Well, my cup is empty, so that's not gonna work. Okay, coming to you today on all things September 12th, Monday, September 12th. Uh, as a native New Yorker, I could tell you for a fact, I truly took 9/11 as a major personal hit. I grew up seeing those buildings. Those buildings were always there. The towers were always south in Manhattan. Every time I saw them, they were in place, and they were just a fixture in New York City. Now, I actually grew up in the Bronx, which is, north a ways of Manhattan. But you know what? You go through Manhattan, you drive around and stuff, you always see those buildings, okay? We had numerous family members are around and what have you, and, you would see those buildings. It wasn't like, everything was just set up in such a way, shape, and form that you don't see those things. Now, there is actually this high arrogance that's in New York, and you can ask you can ask any New Yorker about this one. Upstate, down the cities, the boroughs. You will hear this classically. People say, "Oh, you're from New York, huh?" Well, Manhattan, Bronx. And the guy goes, "No, I'm from Fishkill," and they're like, "Where's that?" It's like you do realize there's a whole rest of the state besides New York City. And everybody goes, oh, well, yeah. Being from New York City, there's almost like this kind of Parisienne versus the rest of France thing where you're like, oh, I'm from the city. Well, you seem to forget that there's a whole rest of the state. And New York State is not exactly small, okay? There's actually quite a lot of stuff there. And there's a lot of population, not in the city. And there's a lot of population through the rest of the state. By and large, being from the city and dealing with, contending with, and seeing all the horror they're in of World Trade Center. I actually went there when it was still just two empty holes after some period in time. I mean, we went down. Well, actually, we went up there. It was in Maryland, but we went up there, and I saw the what they refer to as the tubs, the basins. Basically those square holes in the ground that now have the waterfalls running into them. But those square basins that actually was the fixture where they had the buildings dropped into. And that was actually one of those engineering things that they were concerned about. They're like, if the tubs are leaking, how do we build something new in there? Because if you look at the way Manhattan is, usually what they do with Manhattan is they cut a new hole, they take all that dirt, they take that dirt and they pour it off the side, they make more Manhattan. Manhattan is literally growing by them adding dirt, kind of like the way the Japanese do, is there's only but so much land that they're actually taking it from one place and building on to make it somewhere else because real estate is so scarce, so expensive, and truthfully, there's not a lot of Manhattan. Okay, Manhattan's only not even 2 miles wide hardly, and it's only like 8 miles long. Okay, there's not a lot, or 6 miles long, whatever it is. There's not that much to it. There's a couple bridges going to, there's a couple tunnels. But that time when I went up there, and I still have the files, I have yet to really go through those photos and really eyeball them, and do any kind of editing or posting or anything. But looking in one of the tubs, it's an empty tub. The walls are, black. There's nothing, or blackish gray. There's nothing really in the thing. And I'm looking down there and I see what looks like kind of like a roofing area, almost like an exposed kind of roof. And I see a subway drive through. And I'm like, oh man, that's stuff you should never, ever, ever see. Now, 15 years after the event on September 11th, uh, it's just like the World War II veterans or the World War II era of people. You can ask them, and I actually asked like one of my wife's coworkers' fathers. Guy just recently passed, but he's a World War II veteran, our greatest generation, and he's dementia. He wasn't all there or anything. And I said, "Hey, Pop," and he's like, I was like, "Do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?" And he goes, "Yes." It's like I remember exactly where I was. I heard it on the radio. I have that same kind of thing that people are going to ask me later on in life. They're going to go, "Hey, do you remember where you were when World Trade Center happened?" Yes, I'm going to remember exactly where I was, who I was with, and the most striking thing of it all was there was an older gentleman who happened to work with us by the name of Malcolm. I'm sure he's probably passed at this point because I actually worked at this place probably better, 15, 16 years ago. But I'm sure he's probably passed at this point. He was retiring when I was working there. So this is happening. He's watching the planes. Of course, they're showing the loop of the planes hitting the building again and again. Buildings collapsing. All the rest of that falderall. And he just looks at it and he goes, "Yep, it's exactly the way it was when it happened back in World War II." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That's exactly the way it was when those nips hit us back in Pearl." Well, the Japs hit us in Pearl. I think that was actually how he said it. That was exactly how it was when those Japs hit us in Pearl. Now, I know it's not politically correct to call them Nips or Japs nowadays, but you know what? For the time, and those people in memoriam, they had a certain way of addressing that other culture, and it was their zeitgeist. It was their spirit of the times. Yeah, the Japs hit the Japs hit Pearl Harbor. So he hit that nuance, and I'm like, yeah, it was those Saudi assholes that basically hit World Trade Center, and I know exactly where I am. For the rest of my life, I'm going to know exactly where I was, what I was doing, what I was feeling, what it smelt like, and what the TV screen looked like as we were watching those buildings get hit, and fall, and the endless loop of those assholes in the news media that simply keep propping it up and trying to just make it as horrific as possible so you keep watching, just transfixed. We didn't get a lot of work done that day, and for the next 15 years or so, it has not been a good holiday for me to commemorate in just the worst possible case of looking at things. Now, it has actually gotten better with time, but it is not something that I really truly wish to address on September 11th. As a matter of fact, I actually truly hate to see the numbers 9 and 11 in concert on a clock or in any relation thereof. I hate to see 9/11. Something I'm going to be carrying for the rest of my life. As fellow Americans, we all basically went through this thing together. And the only thing I'd say that was actually good about it was therein and afterwards, people were just nicer. I mean, you're driving around, you put the turn signal on, people would let you merge. They would actually, be kind to one another. So the only thing that really was good about it that came out of it was Americans treated other Americans with kid gloves because we all were hurting. Perhaps we need to get back to a bit more of that, and once we get, things cleaned out of the White House from the previous iteration of just people not running stuff correctly, maybe we can get kind of back to where we were and actually treat each other just a bit better. I'm going to break up on this one, folks, but, this Monday is bittersweet, and yesterday wasn't a bad day, but you know what? The only thing that was really good about yesterday, unfortunately, and of course, the day that it fell upon, but we also had the Baltimore Ravens win a game. We also went to a wedding/bridal shower, and it was a good time. We actually got to hang out with family members. We got to eat some good chow, and of that, maybe that was a celebration of life. So of all these things, maybe some good things are coming out of this day that I hadn't possibly seen, but go Ravens. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to break up with this one. Eat good, keep your sun ring. As always, you know it, you love it. 9/11 is always going to be a suck-ass day for me, folks. See you guys.